it'd be like me, because whenever she's got children, okay?
Mm-hmm.
To me, the equivalent of what she was doing, it was me reading a book. I'm sorry, that came out wrong. Skimming the headlines of the book, right? About how to bring up children, and me telling her, do you know what you think you should do? Welcome back. We are on with Marianne van den Broek on the Too Old for This Shit podcast. I'm Angie S, the founder of angies.com, link in the show notes, where I'm a health expert and coach. If you want to work with me, please get in touch via the website or email me directly at hello@angie-s.com. I'd absolutely love to help you out. So if you need something fun, distracting, and uplifting to listen to, here are a list of 8 episodes that I would recommend. Episode number 2, Turned On with Rachel Paz. Episode number 3, Be Bold with Paula Mold. Episode 4, Bounce Back with Melanie Fromer. Episode 10, Don't Be Awkward, Be the Misfit with Rachel K. Alberts. Episode 19, Inside the Mind of a Pro-Dominatrix with Mistress Marley, if you want to get your kink on during isolation. Episode 20, Surviving Christmas with Lynn Nichols. You may need this if you're isolating with family, just saying. Episode 21, 101 to Manifesting in 2020 with Lynn Nichols. Now is a great time to use those tools from the episode. She addresses the more metaphysical side of it, and I give you practical tips. Episode 25, Teach Me About Pleasure with Dr. Ushina Yusei Osai. So, in the coming weeks, I'm releasing episodes around dating for women who are empath and over 40, where I talk with a former call girl. No lie. You know how I get when I want to really talk about stuff. I need guests who are on board. So I'm also doing a special with a tantric couple to talk about the Netflix show Love is Blind, where we'll uncover what's going on for these couples. So that also means that it will be the second man to ever appear on the show. So I'm really excited. Also, please share this podcast with your friends, rate, review, subscribe to the show on iTunes, follow it on Spotify, and for all the other platforms, whichever way you show love is how you can support this show, and it's absolutely free for you to do. And it would mean extra now, as I've been made redundant from my day job due to internal restructure, not COVID related, but timing just sucks. So I may have wished a bit too hard for that freedom, but I feel positive and now I'm here. So sharing this with your friends so they can listen to this, when you rate it, review and subscribe, it really, really counts to get sponsors. So I would really extra appreciate it. Thank you so much. So today I brought Marianne on to talk about how to be there for someone, because what we need not only depends on the situation we're in, but all of us also look and need for different things when we go through a hard time. So let's begin. Hello, Marianne.
Hey, so happy we're doing this.
Me too. I'm really, really glad that we connected not that long ago. I think was it last week we spoke.
Yeah.
And so really a big welcome onto the show. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you so much for having me.
So before I explain why I brought you on, I just want to make clear to our listeners that this will be like an uplifting, informative and practical, but still, we're going to keep it on the light side, fun, especially now. We need it, I think, a bit more than ever. I've been so over the internet and things at the moment.
We need the high vibes, right?
We need the high vibes with this whole COVID stuff. So obviously it's not it's still, it's not, we're not trying to make it sound like it doesn't matter, not at all, but I just want to uplift this. And so Marianne, I brought you on because I have found that a lot of us go around not knowing how to support someone, how to be there for loved ones or friends when they go through grief. And when I say grief, I don't necessarily mean it in the traditional way, but I mean grief going through a breakup, divorce, death, losing a job, being kicked out of your flat, losing the house, being disowned by your family for being true to yourself, and so on and so on. So I found that you, Marianne, you're great because not only are you a qualified psychiatrist with experience in treating trauma patients, but you also subsequently moved into a more proactive kind of therapies, which I will let you explain. So before we dive into this, please introduce yourself, where you live and what you do.
Yeah. So I'm Marianne. I live in the Netherlands with my family. And right now I work as a business coach, and I really combine the strategy and the mindset with more holistic tools like EFT tapping. I think we'll definitely mention that for a bit, but also theta meditation type healing of subconscious beliefs. So lots of different techniques to help people stay as high vibe as possible and reach a lot of clients and help a lot of people. And that is what I do nowadays.
Okay. Can you, because maybe some people might not have heard of this, can you explain what EFT is and theta? Just so
Definitely.
briefly.
So when I was still working as a psychiatrist, obviously it was lots of talking and thinking, and also treatments took a lot of time. Like people would be in treatment in therapy with me for sometimes years on end. And as much as I love my clients, I hated that they were moving forward so slowly, and not because of their fault, but just because the traditional therapy wasn't giving them enough. And what I then found is that there's often also stuff going on like the emotional level, things that are feeling stuck, and also things that are stuck on a level that we can't really consciously access, but are still really bugging us. So I was then trained in EFT, emotional freedom techniques. And that is almost like acupuncture without the needles. So, right, the Chinese techniques where they stick needles in you so you like quit smoking or feel better. And people tap on their faces, and you can tap on all types of things that are bothering you, whether you're just feeling down or whether you have this belief that is stuck in your head that is just helping you stay stuck.
So why does it work? Sorry, like why does tapping on yourself in different points, why does it work? Or to release like certain emotions?
So it works. Well, obviously, we're not completely sure, but it's based on the Eastern medicine idea that we have these flows of energy going through our bodies. And that's actually something that we subscribe to in the Western medicine as well, because like we do MRI scans, and those are all based on the fact that we have electrical currency in our bodies, right? Maybe not everyone knows that either, but like the big scanny things that make lots of noise, they're like magnets.
Yeah.
And so the idea is that when we have something that is bugging us, then that is also stuck in our energy field, which is still the Eastern medicine belief. Now, the cool thing is, and this is why I was able to use it as a psychiatrist as well, and now in my coaching too, is that then they did research, like the proper Western medicine research, whatever that may mean, but and they compared it to traditional therapies for anxiety and for depression and for trauma-related disorders, and they actually found that it had the same result and sometimes even quicker. So that was pretty impressive, I found.
And so what is theta?
So theta healing is a bit more out there, but not exactly. So it's based on the idea that in our mind, we have different states, right? So sometimes we're awake, sometimes we're sort of dreaming, and sometimes we're asleep. And these different states of being are associated with a different brainwave rhythm, which is something that they measure. Like maybe you've seen the pictures where they have all the electrodes on their heads and they're measuring them. And what they actually found is
like at a sleep clinic.
Yeah, like in a sleep clinic. Exactly. Because then they can see when your brain is asleep and when it's in a different dreaming stage. Now, what they found is that young children are actually in a slower brainwave state most of the time than we are as adults. And this is called the theta brainwave state. And this is a brainwave state that can also be achieved through meditation. And the cool thing is that when you are in this state of meditation, you can actually change beliefs that are more in the subconscious part of your brain. And supposedly these are the beliefs that were formed when you were still a young kid. So this one is definitely a bit more on the holistic side, but I've seen massive results.
So just briefly, because I don't want to obviously spend too much time on that bit because we got so much to cover, but I'm just really curious. So like with the theta, how does it work in a session? Because are you meditating with the patient?
Sort of, yeah. So for
Ah,
me, it's really cool because I'm able to really tap into my skills as a psychiatrist, which is like really quickly digging deep and finding out what the core issue is,
yeah.
and then helping them reach this theta wave meditation state. And then we get to change stuff.
Wow. Okay. Wow. Okay. Yeah. So yeah. So you go into into that state, into those, I guess that wave, that rhythm,
Yeah,
meditation state, and then you go in, remove the old belief, and then input a new one.
yeah, yeah.
Okay. Okay. And that's it sounds like it would take years to learn to meditate like that, but I guess that's not, you do it
No,
slightly
I can
differently.
just help my clients achieve that state quite easily.
Okay.
It's a pretty nifty trick.
That's pretty nifty. Yeah. It means you don't have to
But
be a
no, you
monk
don't
on
have
a,
to have any skills. You don't have
yeah.
to have any experience with meditation. People who've never done meditation actually come to me and get this technique done, and it works on them as well. It's really cool.
Yeah. That's cool. It means you don't have to be like a monk on a mountaintop to get that. That's good.
Exactly. Or the ashram or nope.
Yeah. 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 I want to sort of dive into your experience with trauma patients, because what I want to learn about that is not going into their trauma, but I want to learn about how, from what you've learned, how we can be there for other people. Okay. Because you've
Yeah.
met people that, it's, obviously very vulnerable stages. So can you explain to us what is grief? Like, maybe on both on a physiological level, emotional level, like any level that you know that, how would you define grief?
Yeah. So, well, as you explained beautifully in the intro just now, grief isn't just something that happens when you lose someone, right? I mean, grief can happen over basically anything that you're like very disappointed or you lost. And it like just the other day I was talking to a friend and her daughter was going to do her exams and have like all these exam parties. Well, they're obviously not happening right now. And she's grieving too. I mean, it's all about loss. And what happens in what you would call like natural grief reaction is that people have this response, and there's actually like the stages of grief, and I'm pretty sure people have heard of them. So they have these different emotional responses and different types of thought that are all related to this experience of loss. And that is very normal and very natural. And it takes longer for some people, shorter for some people. And some people go like back and forth between being angry, being sad, bargaining, and then being really, really sad again. And it's all a very natural human condition. But as fellow humans, we don't really like seeing the people we love suffering. And so our very natural tendency is to sort of interfere with that natural process. And that is where I think the whole support issue comes up.
Yeah, I guess it's because we feel that pain that they're feeling and it makes us uncomfortable. Or
Yeah, definitely.
yeah, yeah. So, when you said about some people going back and forth, is that what you call like self-worth? No, the Rosen grief. Sorry, the Rosen grief. Is that
No,
what
so
that
there's
is?
so like the natural grief can last different times and it can go back and forth, and that is all completely natural. But for some people, those complaints don't go away. Like there is this natural course, and sometimes people just stay stuck. They stay stuck in their grief. And there's different types of that. So what you sometimes see is that people just stay stuck in their grief, and they like you often see this with like older people who lose a spouse, and they just completely close off. They don't go outside. They don't meet with their family and friends, and they just stay sort of stuck in this loss, and they're not able to move on, right? They're not
Mm-hmm.
able to accept it, and they stay stuck. And then there's also people who have such difficulty coping with it that they actually just push it away. Like they are not feeling all the feels because it
Yeah,
feels really uncomfortable,
yeah,
obviously.
yeah.
And they push it away, but then it sort of gets stored inside of them. And then when something else happens, it comes up again, or sometimes it's just lingering and it's like interfering with everything, but they don't really understand that that's what's going on.
Oh
And so
yeah,
those are the
yeah,
two cases
yeah.
where it can be harmful, right?
Yeah, I think it's interesting because I think we can all have we can all go through any of those types. I think we all
Yeah.
have, there isn't like, I say you've grieved once, you've had a heartbreak once, so you've had, you've mourned a lost one. The next grief may not naturally may come that way, but yeah, it's interesting because, yeah, I mean, that's probably also why people don't know what to do, because especially if you push it away. I mean, I had a time like that where for years I couldn't cry for years, but I had like a deep, deep sadness. I was
Yeah.
grieving heavily. I was very young, but I was really, and I just couldn't cry. And I thought everyone else was cuckoo who thought that, talk about emotions. I was like, I was rolling my eyes. I was like, why are they not getting over this shit? I was completely, but it was manifesting in other ways. I was
Yeah.
obviously, angry, and all this kind of stuff. But yeah, it's interesting. And then other times I'd be like, but now I've learned to just like, be like a human being again and just like learn, I
Well,
cry
yeah,
now.
but
Now
you're
I can
saying that,
cry.
but you
Yeah.
know what? Actually, we in our Western society haven't really learned to feel the feels,
No, yeah. Or to understand them,
right?
right? Yes.
To understand them and
Yeah.
to actually be allowed to just be sad or be angry. I mean, just looking at like kids in school, like very young kids, they're told to behave and to be quiet, and if
Oh,
they're
yeah.
angry they're told to like calm down and they're secluded. And well, instead, I mean, we should teach our young kids that it's okay to feel angry or sad or whatever, but we're just so used to trying to distract them or
Yeah.
tell them it's not okay to be angry, or right. So we haven't
Yeah.
really learned it. So it's actually quite natural that when we grow up and then we experience grief, then we don't know what the hell to do.
But that's interesting because I think, and then this is like a theory of mine, but I think this is why in some cultures that, when what you just said, like for example, being told to be quiet, not basically, you always have to stay even keeled or happy, but not too happy because that disturbs other people. So yeah, so don't be too sad, don't be too high, just be level killed, just feel, not be
Yeah.
neutral.
Neutral is
Yeah,
awesome. Yeah.
like be Switzerland politically, but emotionally, right?
Yeah.
Be emotional Swiss, but it's like so. So basically, so I think this is why in some cultures that some people, like when they all of a sudden they hit like 18 or 14 or 15 or later in life, but it's often like manifested like in late teens when they're doing exams and they can't cope and they're so stressed and they're anxious, they're being put on medication straight away. And I'm like, that, like when I grew up in Belgium, that's you just like, you felt that you're supposed to feel stressed. That was normal. You're supposed to feel anxious about your exams. You're supposed to feel overwhelmed because you don't want to be studying geography, math, Latin, or whatever it is that you say. It's too much, right? It's too, you're a teenager. You rather go out, have fun, smoke cigarettes, whatever it is that you're doing. And so, but I think if you are, it's like if people are not letting natural emotions come through, and so when they are then happening, even in cultures where it's normal to have emotions, people sometimes also still don't know what to do. So it's like, it's become this really hard thing to navigate. And either people don't allow themselves to have feelings, and when they have them, they want to solve it. And again, I'm not against antidepressant medication at all. Like at some point, you just need shit to stop. Like you just feel like you just have to have it.
No,
and
but there's a time and a place for them.
exactly,
And yeah.
exactly. And it's like, it's like they're putting a cast on someone who just needs a plaster.
Yeah.
Put the cast on when you break your arm. Yeah, give that medication when you really are at that point, or whatever it is. But yeah, it's just but so okay, so did you want to say something? Because I feel like I interrupted
Yeah, well,
you.
I was just, so what many people also don't realize, I guess, is that they are holding back their emotions. And what often is going on is, on some level, they're kind of afraid that if they allow all the emotions to just be there, that they will completely take over. And this is
Yeah.
especially true for people who have been like trying to push everything down for very long, because then they're like, yeah, there's so much crap in there that if I let it all out, then
Yeah.
what's the end of it, right? I'll be
Yeah.
crying for the next 2 years, or I'll be so scared I'll probably
Yeah.
never leave my house again. So
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
let's just not do that. And we really need to tell that part of our brain, because it's just trying to protect us, that nothing bad is going to happen, that we're completely safe, and also that trying to suppress an emotion is what keeps it going instead of allowing it. Because when we actually feel it, then it will be able to subside at some point. And it may take a while, and it may take longer than feels comfortable, but it's the only way to actually let them out of your system. And I think that is something that we really, really, really need to explain to our own brain, basically.
But you know what's interesting with what you just said? I think a lot of us, or many of us have experienced this, and we know this because I don't know if you've ever been like at your job, you're at your job and you're feeling really emotional, and like maybe something's happened at the job or outside of work or whatever it is. You step away from your desk to just like breathe. You go to the toilet. You like, don't cry, do not cry. And then you don't cry, you're fine, you're good. You come back in, someone just says one thing, and all of a sudden you're like, shit, I should have gone to the toilet because it's coming now. It's like, there's no point holding it. You might as well. So I've learned, like, let's say some things are happening and I'm feeling emotional. I have to step away, wait. And then if I cry, just cry in the toilet. And there's a trick. You just have to wait, and you have to put like dab cold water on your eyes. You know, I mean, never mind the mascara, but just put it then underneath, like I put like underneath the eyes, you know, where usually it's like the raccoon eyes, like you call it. I don't know. Yeah, that bit. Just put cold, and just wait. Open the window, put your face out in the fresh air, like cold. That's what you need. Yeah, because otherwise it'll happen in front of everyone if you don't want it to happen. You know, obviously at work it's not
Definitely.
ideal, right?
But if you do feel like completely over emotional and there's really not a time and place for that, what I really love using as a trick is sort of really taking a moment and really promising myself that I will address that emotion later and then actually do it. Because you know, if you try to trick yourself too many times, then you're not going to believe it. But if I actually, like, sometimes I would be like in a client call or something, or like a patient would tell me something that would trigger something in me, and obviously I would not be able to like leave the room and go cry, because that would be horrible for them.
Yes.
But then I would promise myself, so okay, so I'm going to take some time to process my emotions later, and then actually do it, because otherwise, you know, it's not going to work.
Do you know what? This is actually super, what you just said, this is actually excellent, because that's a perfect segue, what you were saying about how you didn't want to cry in front of that person, because obviously it would make it worse for them. You need, like, you know, stepping away, because like we touched on this, like when we chatted last week, what you and I was what's empowering and what's disempowering support. And so before going into like the different types of how we can be there for people and different types of supporter roles, really, that we can be, I wanted to go into a little bit about things like, I want to talk about like pity, feeling sorry for someone, compassion, and empathy. Okay.
Yes.
And with the example you said, I mean, there are times where obviously crying with someone almost makes sense, like, you know, but I mean, makes sense. Even then, because I feel like, for example, let's say if someone is telling you, or if I'm telling someone, if I'm going through something hard, and let's say, you know, it's like, you know, soul destroying or whatever it is, you know, I don't need it. I don't need it. I don't want the other person to be sad. You know, I don't want them. I need them to be a rock. I don't want them to be like, when I'm in the gutter, I need you to be strong, and I need you to be like, you know, ready to hold my hand when I'm reaching out. Because when, let's say if I'm in the gutter and you're a rock, it means that I feel safer to fall apart, because you have not made this about you. You're not trying to make it about you. And again, it's not because you're not allowed to have feelings, right? So probably with your patients, like you were saying, right? So you can still feel it's awful to see someone in pain, right? And telling you about their traumatic story. So you will, you know, a lot of us will feel it for that other person, absorb those emotions. But it's it's okay to feel them, step away and cry. But I think when you're in that moment, to be a solid rock is to be there for someone, is to be a rock in that case. I don't know, what's your feeling on that?
Well, most definitely. But it does depend, like for each person, it may be different, right?
Yeah.
And also what a rock looks like may be different from one person to another. But I think when we're trying to support someone, what's most important is that we try to be non-judgmental, And we can definitely try to put ourselves in their shoes, but not in a sense of like when someone lost their job and go, oh yeah, I remember that one time when I lost my job. And then, right. And that is just this tendency that we have as humans, because we're like, oh yeah, I can relate and I can totally share my story. And obviously that's not very helpful. It may be at a later point, and it may be funny to all laugh about your shared experience, but not when someone is like knee deep in there.
Yeah, I think especially when it just happens to someone, because what that other person is doing, they're making it about them.
Yeah,
and that is so frustrating, because when you approach someone and you're like, hey, I'm about to like be quite vulnerable with you, and that person turns it around and it's almost like they're stealing, not like there's a thunder, not stealing your thunder, nobody wants to,
but it makes total sense.
Yeah. Right? It's like, it's like, wait, I need you right now, and you're making it about you.
Yeah. And it's a completely natural tendency, like us humans have it, because that is a way we connect, right? As humans, we connect on shared stories. So it's completely natural that your brain goes there, but then stop yourself. And instead, just try to feel into how that person is feeling, because they may not be feeling the same way as you would be feeling when that would have happened to you. And so try to feel into it. And if you can't feel it, then just ask them. So how are you doing? How are you feeling? And I think we're quite hesitant to ask that because it almost sounds like a stupid question. But really it isn't, because that really allows that person to just tell you exactly what's going on and how they're feeling. And then you're much better able to support them where they're at.
Yeah. Yeah. If they know how they're feeling.
But otherwise they can just tell you, you know what, I don't know, or I'm feeling all the feels, and you can relate to that as well. So that is completely fine.
Yeah.
The other thing is what I said is just be non-judgmental.
Yeah.
Because we have this tendency to have judgment about everything. And again, that is just a very natural tendency as a human being.
Mm-hmm.
But don't, like, when someone is saying, oh, I just lost my job, like, don't try to compare that to someone else's pain. Or like for example, now with the virus going on, like someone could still be sad about something else, and it may seem kind of minor to you with people actually being very sick and even dying. But like, don't try to judge them for their emotions. And I think that is a very devastating thing to do. But again, it's something that comes very, very natural to us, right?
Yeah, but I think actually that's interesting you mentioned that, because I think, let's say if someone's judging you for having an emotion, so let's say if you lost your job, then I think the reason why that person's judging you is because they're being hard on themselves. They wouldn't allow themselves. They wouldn't allow themselves to.
Yes, I love that you said that.
Right, to feel sorry about, because they're hard on themselves, they're hard on others.
Yeah. When someone is judging you, they're actually judging themselves, right?
100%.
That is not something that everyone subscribes to. So,
but actually, some people that's the case for some, for sure. It's like in situations like that. But I think also in other cases, because some people really do think they're above everyone else and they have the moral high ground. But again, it's because they're so hard on themselves, really.
Yeah.
Because they're like, well, if I have to do this, why aren't you doing this? And we see this all the time now with the COVID virus, right? It's like, well, if I have to do this, why aren't you doing this? And it's like, other people are like, well, if I'm not feeling this way, why are you feeling this way? All kinds of stuff like this. And everyone, both sides of the spectrum, are just, as terrible as each other almost in their behavior, but it's because obviously there's this fear factor, or, and apathy as well, like, or just being reasonable. But all of these lines are blurred, right? So we're all just judging, everyone's judging, and it's like,
especially when we're scared or when we feel like we don't have our usual freedom, then that is an excellent place to start judging and comparing and sort of, trying to put yourself above people just as a survival mechanism, not because you're a mean person, and we're all doing it. And then hopefully we catch yourself and go, that's not very helpful. But it's a very, very common thing. And especially right now, unfortunately.
I guess like the final thing I want to say about the COVID virus, COVID-19, so is that definitely we see, like, what I'm observing is people who don't want to be controlled and people who are afraid to lose control. right? Which is it's also
Yes.
like it's also a parallel to, and obviously those people don't have eating disorders. I'm not saying that, but it's also an observation with, for example, with whether you are binge eating or restricting it yourself, right? So it's that feeling of out of control or not wanting to be controlled, right?
Yeah,
So which we all
definitely.
fluctuate between,
And
right? Mm-hmm.
doing something with control is like the most natural thing to do, especially when you're scared, but also like when you're confronted with grief, right? Like when you see a loved one hurting, your first tendency is that you want to make it better because you can't stand the fact that they're sad. And
Yeah, it's
we
awful.
often
Yeah.
mess up out of that feeling, which is actually, I mean, it comes from a good heart. It comes from a place of love. But what we really, really, really need to realize is that we can't make it better for them. And sometimes we're making it worse by trying. Like when someone, for example, I'm sure you've had this as well, where you're just hurting and then someone says, well, at least you're still healthy, or, like
I
trying
know.
to
And it's
find
like,
the silver
yeah,
lining.
count your blessings. Everything's happened for a reason. One door closed. Like we all know this, but now is not the time to tell us that, right?
No, and there's definitely a fine line between, on the one hand, allowing someone to have their emotions and to vent, and then on the other hand, also helping them to go to a place where they actually feel better. Because there's also the people who just cry with you and are angry with you, but then you sort of stay stuck there, and that is not very helpful either. So I think that is where the whole rock story comes in again, right? So on the one hand, you want to be supportive, you want to really meet them where they're at, but then also don't stay stuck there too long. So also help them sort of go to a more neutral place, but don't try to get them to a positive place all at once, because they will try to kill you probably. I mean, that is the worst, right?
It's like, yeah, absolutely. I think there's a fine balance. It's like, you just read, like, it's like reading the situation, have they just lost a parent? Have they just lost their job? Whatever it is, don't, a fixing mode will definitely aggravate a lot of us, and to tell us like, it's all good. I mean, I think there's a fine line between I want you to be like confident in my abilities to get past whatever it is I'm going through. To me, that's like an empowering kind of support.
Yeah.
But there's a line between that and then go, right, so this is what you need to do, and you can do this, and I'm like, whoa, I'm still in my bed, like crying right now.
I just want to be wearing my pajamas and not shower for 2 days and eat all the chocolate.
And just watch Netflix and just not think about anything. And I just want to like be wasting my time.
And
then maybe even do some daytime drinking. I don't even know. Like, just let me be, right? Because I think if you do that at the beginning, like within a day, 2 days, you're still upset for a while, but like at least you've gone through the rough, and then you kind of start to be, because there's these stages where there's the delusion, it takes time for it to hit you. Then you get angry, sad, and you bounce back and forth. But then all of a sudden for yourself, you're like, you know what? I'm going to start running. I'm going to start eating lean chicken. I'm going to start making things right. I'll wash my hair twice a week, whatever it is, and then you start being proactive and do stuff. But yeah, I think we have to be comfortable with the ugly.
We have to be comfortable. And also, what I was thinking is something else that we really forget is that grief often has layers. And so we will heal that first layer often, like if we're emotionally healthy, we'll heal it quite quickly with the binge drinking and everything. And then, and then we're sort of fine again. And then something else will happen, or we'll be reminded of that someone, or like whatever.
Yeah.
And then we'll just hit a new layer of grief. And so if you encounter that in a person that you're supporting, like don't get scared that they're like falling back into that horrible place, because they've hit another layer. And it's also a very healthy coping mechanism to just heal a little bit and then sort of get moving again, and then just hit another layer. And then, maybe you'll just lay in bed for another day, but you'll be back on your feet a bit quicker until one day, like, you're not grieving anymore. And then it's still sad, and it may still like trigger you just a little bit, but then it's not hurting anymore, right?
Yeah, this is so true. Do you know, I didn't think about that with the stages, because it's so true, because I think a lot of us can relate to that in terms of like whether it's someone passing, to a really painful breakup, because you have you have almost like the seasons, and it's sometimes, and for example with breakups, you'd have all of a sudden that person may send you a text, or you may hear a song, or there's a movie and it reminds you of them, and it's like that. I call it the emotional hangover.
Yeah.
It's like, it's like a 24-hour situation almost. It's like you feel really off again.
Yeah. And it's so important to then again feel the feels, because many of us don't really recognize it, and we're like, oh, I'm feeling kind of crappy, don't know why. Okay, I'll just like pick myself up and move on, because there's nothing wrong. But then just check in with yourself, because probably it's just a new layer that needs to be healed.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So, okay. So can you explain to us, because I've got thoughts around compassion and empathy, because those words obviously are being thrown around a lot.
Yeah.
How would you, because for me, compassion is very, very close to pity, if not the same a lot of the time. From your professional expertise, like what's empathy and what's compassion?
So I think there's different like psychological phrases going around. For one, I really love the explanation by Brene Brown, and she actually talks about empathy and sympathy, where she says like empathy is what we just talked about, right? So it's a non-judgmental, trying to step in their shoes, but not in, wow, if that would happen to me, then this is what I would feel, but actually feel into how they are feeling and support them where they're at. And try to empower them also without trying to make the pain go away immediately. Whereas sympathy is judging, not meeting them where they're at, making it about yourself, or like crying with them, but like in a very disempowering way. And so sympathy can be very disempowering, can be very unhelpful, because it's just making that person feel, well, like they're not being seen and like they're not being understood, right? And that is a very sucky feeling. And then there's also the idea of compassion, and self-compassion, actually, which is like a whole nother stream in psychology, which I actually really subscribe to as well. And that is all about the fact that like everything that happens, like emotions, but also like making mistakes, it's all like really part of the human experience, and very much about feeling the feels and trying to learn a lesson if there's a lesson there, and then moving on. Like, but first really, just meeting the emotion and feeling it, but also like understanding, okay, so this is part of the human experience as well. So if you're being compassionate like to someone else, then there's very fine balance between like, oh, this is part of the human experience, or trying to make them feel better and not feel the feelings first. So it's such a fine line, and it's almost an art, right, to support someone properly.
So with compassion, so like you said, for example, okay, let's take a bit of an extreme case. Okay, so let's say if I have a friend, she comes to me, she's distraught because she cheated on her husband, for example, and that's obviously a very triggering topic for a lot of people. But let's say she cheated on her husband. Okay, it was a mistake. She maybe was like a drunken night, whatever it is. It was a mistake. It's not because she doesn't love him. There can be tons of reasons, right? So, and she's regretting it. She's coming to me. Is that what you mean by compassion? Is that basically being understanding that we're all humans, we all fuck up. No one's above. It's not condoning it's not saying that cheating is the right thing to do and it's the solution, but it's understanding that actually everyone's human, and you should be throwing the first stone, right?
Right. And also that our actions don't define our worth. I think that is the most.
Yeah.
So for example, like when a kid is behaving badly, it's a very fine line, but you can either tell them, ooh, you're behaving very badly right now, or you can say you're a bad kid. No, they're still completely valuable and completely awesome, but they're behaving badly. And but we are not defined by our actions, right? That's not who we really are. Like that is not what defines our worth.
And I think that happens a lot actually in love dynamics and relationships and dating, that people are always judging they're making a character judgment over one action. They don't look at the overall story, right? All the time, like, he's a bastard. I can't believe he said that. And I can't believe he did this. And wait a minute. Have you looked at the 99% of other stuff that he's done that's like good? Everyone's like always judging. I mean, there probably are issues, but maybe you basically focusing on something small because you don't know how to address the bigger situation that's going on.
It could definitely be, but also I think it's just our mind trying to make sense of the world, and it does it in a very black and white way very often. Like, and we have to be very aware of that, and then remind ourselves, "Oh no, that's not what is actually going on." But it's kind of an art.
It is, yeah. But I think it's a bit like, I think the thing when people are judging a character, it's almost like, for example, so let's say someone's driving and they accidentally run over someone. It's like, it's a genuine accident. They weren't drinking, they were nothing. It just, someone came out of nowhere, hit them, right? That's my biggest fear, by the way. But
that's kind of a horror scenario.
Yeah. But so it's one of my biggest fear. But anyway, so I don't drive as well. Anyway, that's not a whole other topic. But so for example, okay, so there is that, right? That's one action that it was not malicious. The consequences, the outcome is obviously the worst you can imagine if you just kill someone, right? So, but it will be the same as saying, well, that person's a serial killer, that person's a killer and a murderer. That's two very different things. It's not like, so let's say if someone is out there is a serial killer, that is, you can pretty much say there's something wrong with that person, right? But then someone who does a one-off, and I think that's where maybe like the compassion comes in, right? It's like, it's not saying, it's great to be running over people, but
no, but like, even if someone,
it's an accident,
but like, I wouldn't say that for the running over someone example, but even if someone does something, well, like the cheating thing, where they did it and they were completely aware of the fact that that was hurtful to their partner at the time, still, that doesn't make them a bad person.
Absolutely,
right?
Absolutely.
They did something bad.
No, I agree. Yeah, that's why, like, I think it's that thing of that understanding that we are all humans. We all fuck up. And like, obviously, whether it's like the car accident or cheating on someone, even if it, obviously is conscious, but it's not because we are bad people. People do things. And so with the sympathy and the pity and the compassion, I think sometimes that those lines are a bit blurred. So, because I know I was saying earlier, right, that, and I think you were saying that too as well, that, is important it's good to be able to be a rock when someone is falling apart, right? Because if both of you are falling apart, it's not going to be helpful for the person who needs you. But then something struck me. I was like, okay, well, then am I being hypocritical? Because I was watching, I don't know if you know the show called Love is Blind.
I haven't actually seen it. I've seen loads and loads of comments on it, though.
Yeah. It's definitely. I'm actually going to do an episode on it with someone as well. Like it's like it's a really interesting experiment to watch. But basically, these are people who they've never seen each other and they're dating through the wall. Basically, they're in different types of little rooms, and so there's in one of the scenarios, and basically they have like an emotional connection, and so there is this guy called Barnett.
Awesome name.
Barnett, and the woman is called Amber, right? And so she opens up to him and she's really upset. And she talks about this abortion that she had. And that she says, she wants to make sure that the next time she's in a relationship, she's not going to be put in a position having to make that kind of choice. And she's obviously very distraught. She says it will kill me. And his reaction, which, I mean, up until then, I wasn't too much of a fan of the character, right? But at that point, his reaction, you can tell he gets teary-eyed. You can tell he gets, but it didn't feel like, at that point, I did not feel like it was pity. I felt like he cared. And yeah, it's interesting because sometimes I feel like it's a fine line. Like, how do we know if when someone gets emotional with you, he's not breaking down, she's breaking down, but he's still, you can tell, like, he wants to cry and he's like, really, he doesn't even know what to say. And between that and then in other times where that would feel like maybe like pity, or how do you know, how you define that difference?
Yeah. So I think if you're at all able, then the same rules apply if you're on the receiving end of that support, right? Also try to be non-judgmental. And if someone is crying with you, then try to assume that that is coming from a place of empathy where, you know, they're genuinely supporting you, but also genuinely touched by your grief or your pain. And I mean, that can actually be very loving, but sometimes, we're sort of knee deep into our own pain. And then if someone else tears up or starts crying, even if it's like from the best place possible, it will completely piss us off, right?
Yeah, it's interesting, right? Yeah.
So I don't think you can avoid it completely, or that you can say, oh, those are the good kind of tears and those are the bad kind of tears. But yeah, in the ideal situation, like the same rules apply on both ends. And if you are receiving support from someone and it's not the helpful kind, then are you in a position to kindly tell them what you do need?
Yeah,
because that is their responsibility as well, right?
Yeah, I think, you know, I got an example because it happened to me not long ago. I told something to 4 friends. 2 of them were great, very simple, like it felt really empowering. And 2 others was like, literally, I just needed them to stop. It was like, I was like, honestly, I was like, stop.
I
was
may
like,
just
stop.
murder you. Please leave.
Yeah, I was just like, I was like, you know, it was like every time the phone did a bing, I was like, oh, my heart was like literally squishing. And I said, both of them, I said what did I say? Let me see. Oh, I think this one, I probably didn't say it quite well, but literally that person was like coming at me with like, I think it was about 20 texts of like fixing. Like telling what to do about something that she has no idea about. It's not even her industry. What, you know, it's like, it was intense. And I think I said, I'm reading the text now, and I said, I'm tired today. We can talk another time, but thank you. I know you mean well. Because she kept saying, I'm just pointing it out. I was like, I was trying to get her to stop. I was like, yeah, no, I get it. You're pointing it out quite nicely. And then someone else. And it's not because what she was saying was wrong. She was not wrong in, I mean, it was not always accurate, but it wasn't wrong. And I know she came from a good place, but it was so aggravating. And I think the other one.
It's interesting though.
Yeah.
Because it did trigger you, like in her case, probably, right?
It did.
And so what I always do say to my clients, like you have all right to be like triggered, but if you are, never waste a good trigger. So try to figure out why it's aggravating you, because like if someone's coming at you with all the solutions, then it's and you're very annoyed, then it's possible that part of you is feeling like maybe you should also be looking at solutions, and then another part of you is judging that, and then you're sort of taking it all out on her, right? So
do you know actually what, I'll be totally honest with you, what annoyed me, and it's not like and she's not someone I would ever cut out of my life. Like, she's a very good friend. I have a lot of time and respect for her, and I know she meant well. So that's why, you know, that's also why I felt comfortable just telling her, but I needed to stop because otherwise she was going to go on. But is basically, I think what bugged me was that I was like, she must really think I'm an idiot not to know those things. Or it was like, it was my pride. My pride took a hit. It was my ego.
But you know what? If you think, ooh, she must think I'm an idiot, then part of you is apparently afraid that someone thinks you're an idiot.
Oh yeah, 100%. Yeah, because my comments has always been my
sucks
brain
to be so self-reflective, though. But
yeah, but I think it's my pride, because that's just you know, I was always brought up with like, your intellect is that's your currency, basically, you know.
Yes. Okay, but this is something I think we talked about this as well, like last week.
Yeah.
Like, if you are grieving, then very often your self-worth also took a hit, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Like, not in the traditional,
Absolutely.
like if you lost a partner to illness or to death, then obviously not. But like if you've been dumped or fired or whatever, and probably part of your self-worth is tied to that relationship or that job. And then so your self-worth already took a hit. And then if someone else is like giving you all these suggestions and you're like, ooh, she must think I'm stupid. I mean, that is just aggravating the doubting your self-worth part already, right?
Yeah. And I think also, I think on the other side is like, if I wanted an advice, I wouldn't have asked that person because she does not know. She has no idea what it is that I'm doing. She doesn't understand it. So, and I'm not expecting her to. That's not her role in my life. It'd be like me, because whenever she's got children, okay? To me, the equivalent of what she was doing, it was me reading a book. I'm sorry, that came out wrong. Skimming the headlines of the book, right? About how to bring up children, and me telling her, do you know what you think you should do? You should self-soothe. You should let them self-soothe, because that's what the book says. I'm telling you. And that's what everyone else is doing. And that's how they get successful children. And that's how those children go to university and like look after them when they're old. Yep. That was the equivalent to me. And that's what pissed me off. I was like, yeah, because what you I'm like, what? You know, does that make sense?
Definitely. Yeah. So yeah,
we all have opinions, right? So
for sure. Yeah. So, but probably like she couldn't handle that you were hurting, right?
Yeah.
She wanted to fix it.
Yeah. Oh yeah, absolutely. And she cares a lot, and she's highly supportive. So that's why I wasn't mad at her. I was just like, I just need to.
But I mean, I totally recognize this. It's like the same, like when people are giving me business advice, like, employed and like have no idea, even like they don't even know what I do in my business, but still they're giving me all kinds of advice about stuff that I'm like, yeah, that totally worked in the 90s. Yep.
Yeah. Or you read like one article, listen to one podcast, and I say that you're the expert. Yeah. I mean, it's just like, and I get it. It's not.
But on the other hand, that's also very judgmental of us again to be talking. Yeah, like that's very condescending as well. So it's a very interesting balance, right?
It is. But like that's the thing as well. Is like is like we're all guilty of all of it. And I know I've been that friend. That's what frightened me, because when I saw those reactions, I was like, oh my God. Some people are telling me what to do, blah, blah, and I'm like, I think I've been that friend before. Yeah. I said, I'm really fine. Like I've actually been that person, and I meant well.
Yep.
But so in terms of like how to push boundaries, that's the other text lesson. I think that was a bit better. And he's a great friend of mine. He's been there for me and stuff. And he was getting emotional for me. And I was like, that's got to stop.
Yeah.
I said, I know you're being helpful and supportive with the questions, but it's having the opposite effect at this stage. And he went, no problem. Just talk to me when you're ready. I was like, great. Oh, okay. But I handle him a little bit better than the other person. But
in the ideal situation, you would tell them exactly what type of support would be really helpful, and ask for that in a very obviously kind and non-expecting way, and then they can decide whether that is something that they can give you at that point.
Yeah,
but hey, what if, that is like grown-upping, like level
it's hard
21,
because like,
right?
but I think at that stage is like, if it's just when it's just happened, like on that same day, it's hard to tell someone when you know they're already using energy on you to help you, right? How to then say, I don't even know actually how I would have worded it.
But then you would probably just tell them, I think I need to be alone for a minute right now.
Yeah.
Right?
I need quiet.
I need quiet. I'm sorry. I don't know what came over me, but
but the thing is that I didn't need quiet. But you
didn't need that either.
Yeah,
so then it's probably like, if you're not sure what you need yet. Yeah. Ugh.
So let's say you have a friend and you want to support, like that, they're going through something. Mm-hmm. How do we know? Because like I think like we've defined like so far is that it depends on the situation, depends on the event, it depends on the person, and one person will need something different depending on the event, right? And every person is different. So how do we know, as the friend who wants to be there or the loved one, how do we know what kind of support they need? Like, how do we know what to do? Because it's confusing, right?
It's totally confusing, and you will probably not get it 100% right. And so that is probably what I would start with, is to tell them, I'm so sorry this happened. I'm not exactly sure what to say or how to support you. But I'm just so sorry. And I just want to tell you that. I mean, if you really don't know, if you can't read them, and if you just don't know what's going on, then I would just honestly tell them that, like, I'm here for you. Tell me what to do.
Yeah.
Or do you want me to just sit with you and stay quiet? Ooh, this is also a very overlooked one, by the way. We always think we need to say something or that we need to do something, but just like, or sending the text like, I'm thinking of you, and that's it. Because gosh, like part of us, when we don't know what to do, part of us just screws up by doing all the things, and part of us screw up by not doing anything, right? I mean, I think we've all been there where like this friend of us lost someone, and then we're like, yeah, I should totally like send them a text or a card, but I don't know what to say. And then before we know it, a week has gone by and we still haven't done anything because we haven't decided. I mean, I've been there for sure.
Yeah.
And then you feel so horrible. And then another week goes by because you feel so guilty, right? So very often just like letting someone know that you're thinking of them, or when it's someone close to you, just sitting with them and doing and saying nothing is all it takes.
Yeah, I think, and I think also sometimes, well, two things. One is, I think if you're not allowing that person to just have their moment, just have that, let's say they're talking and all of a sudden, that's usually how it works. Like out of nowhere, it comes out. It's like they're like, like it catches them and they feel emotional, right? They didn't think they were gonna, and it's, it's taking over. And then often it's so uncomfortable to witness. It can be so uncomfortable to witness for many that the thing I think that we do wrong is that we rub away that time they need by going, right, well, then for me, this is, like they make it about them, or they try and change the conversation, or they go with this,
or they want to like
or
fetch you tea or tissues or whatever, right? I mean.
And it's like, just be, obviously if the snots are running down to your knee, like get a tissue for the person, but like, like,
but still ask them, should I get you a tissue? Maybe they're like, no, I want to, it's not running down my everything.
I guess, that's true. That's true. Yeah, because then obviously it takes away focus. And they go, oh, am I being gross now? Like, and it's like, it's the way. I think you have to allow that person to have that moment, because there's something, and it's not something you can see. It's something that you feel. I think is like, if you're having a moment and you're breaking down, and that person goes into distraction mode or fixing mode, it's like it feels like they've just stepped into your space. It's like, wait, out, you've almost disrespected that moment. I just needed out, and then it would have been out.
And you know what? I often even take it one step further, but then I've had like a decade of experience of like having people cry to me all the time. So yeah. I tell them it's completely normal and okay to cry, because very often what will happen is they will start crying and then they'll immediately say, oh, I'm sorry, or they try to push it away, right? And I'll just tell them, no, just cry.
Yeah.
Just cry. It's okay to cry. And sometimes, in some occasions, but this is like the more pro approach, I'll even ask them more questions that will make them cry even more.
Yeah.
If I know it's someone that really struggles to, to face their sadness and to actually express it. So, but just telling them that it's completely normal and okay to cry, and that you're completely fine, and that they shouldn't apologize or anything, that is very, very helpful.
Yeah. Do you think that when you ask this question, the reason why they cry, or that it's okay, is that because they feel like, oh, somebody sees me and gets it?
Yeah.
She's asking the questions that she clearly understands what it is I'm going through. And I don't even have to word it, to speak it.
Exactly. And you know what? I mean, probably like very many listeners to your show as well are actually quite intuitive. And so what I've learned to really trust that intuition also. So I do lots of tapping with my clients, like when they have this trauma that has been stored safely somewhere, right? And then we know that they do need to sort of bring it back up again. And then I start sort of guessing almost, but also like letting inspiration flow and what they might be thinking and might be feeling. And I'll switch it up between like sadness and anger. And like every single time they'll be like, oh my God, it was like you were inside my head and you knew exactly what to say. So like if you know you're quite intuitive, then like very often you'll sort of be inspired to ask the right questions or to say the right things. If you sort of get out of your own way, if that makes sense. Like if you try to switch off your monkey mind and sort of really like try to feel into the situation, and that can be like so super helpful.
Something else about what you were saying earlier about what people may need, for how to support someone. And so like maybe sometimes just sending a text or asking someone what you can do for them. I was thinking about the love languages, because right? So, because for someone, all they need is like, they can't get out the house. They may not have facilities to do food deliveries where they are in the world. Maybe all they need is you to go to the shop, get them some groceries for a week so they don't have to go out and face the world whilst they're crying, because they just have to stop the crying first, right? And for some people, it's a text is enough. For some other people,
some people need a big hug, and
and some people is that quality time that you need to actually show up. You need to be there in person. And again, it will vary from different situations. But I think that's why sometimes it can be difficult in this day and age where it's so digital, where we don't really call up each other anymore. We don't really show up at each other's house. I'm in London, so it's so big. Like we don't really, I grew up very differently. I grew up where you literally show up unannounced at people's house most of the time. It was fine. You show up, I may not be there, but my mom will be there. She'll open the door for you. You're my friend. Right, exactly. We don't do that. And I miss that part. But at the same time, I like my privacy. But I think sometimes text is all you need because you don't want to be talking on the phone. That's not, but it's almost like it's become the only love language now, the only support that we do for each other. And that's where I think it's difficult.
Definitely. But again, ask, because some people are not familiar with the 5 love languages, but when you explain, they know exactly which one they are, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And I think, and what are they? Is it like acts of services? So that'll be going grocery shopping.
You could do acts of service, words of, what is it?
Appreciation or
appreciation,
something.
I guess.
Yeah, that's the text. Yeah.
You totally should have those gifts.
Oh, yeah.
Getting people gifts is totally one as well.
Quality time.
And then touch, probably. Intimacy.
Oh, yeah.
I think those are the ones.
Yeah, I think that's it. Yeah, that's right.
I always need to look them up.
Yeah, no, I think that's it. Right.
And obviously, you don't have to give them a menu. Like, do you want?
Well, I think sometimes, I know you had like some examples as well. I think what I like to, it could be even something like, I'm here for you. It sucks. What do you need? What can I do?
Yeah.
But then if the person does not know what they need, or they don't feel like they can ask, some of us don't want to feel like we're a burden to other people. Then that's when it's like, then what do you do?
Well, but if it's someone close to you, then you'll know that about them. So for that person, I would send a text and I would say, I'm here for you. What do you need? And don't you dare say that you don't need anything, or in kinder words, depending on who they are.
Actually, that's good. Yeah.
I actually mean this. Like, I really mean this. I really want to be there for you. So please let me know.
Yeah, I like that.
And then also, I understand if you don't reply, I'll just text you again tomorrow. Let me know if you want me to stop, right?
Yeah. That's good.
Because sometimes you're like, no, I don't want to reply to everyone and say how kind they are. I just want to lie here and feel sorry for myself. That's fine too. But I'll just text you again tomorrow.
So how can we be your own best supporter? Is there something that what would you tell to someone? Like, if you're going through something, how would you care for yourself? How would you be your own best friend?
Yeah, your own best friend. Ooh, I love that one. Well, obviously, like we just said, like really allowing yourself to feel sad and to feel angry and to check in with yourself as well. And if you just know that you just suck at this, then I don't know, watch a sad movie to bring on the tears, or like start doing like a rant out loud in your own living room without anyone can hear to bring on the anger, or start like hitting your pillow. I don't know, but like really try to access your own emotions and know that they will pass again, and that it's very good to feel them, and be very non-judgmental towards yourself. So if you screwed up in part of this, then that's okay. You'll do better again next time, or not, and then that is fine too. So like, be kind to yourself, and if you make mistakes, that is normal. We all make mistakes because we're human, and we'll try again next time, and that doesn't make us a bad person. And then lastly, I think what I always try to do for myself as well, so I really also subscribe to the law of attraction, where like if we stay stuck in a negative emotion for too long, then it becomes very, very hard to get out of that again, right? And so I will try, like, first just feel it. It's very, very important to feel it. But then once I have processed the emotion, I will to try to reach for a slightly better feeling thought. And I think the big mistake that we make is that we want to like sort of cry it out and then feel positive again, right? And sometimes that's just not possible. If you've just been dumped, then you can't just cry for 2 days and then tell yourself, okay, so plenty of fish in the sea or whatever you say. But right?
Yet.
And that doesn't work. But maybe you can tell yourself, well, I've worked through heartbreak before and you know, I've managed to get through, or I have lots of supportive friends, or I don't know, just whatever you can believe that feels slightly better, and then just move with baby steps towards a better feeling. So on the one hand, feeling the feels, forgiving yourself for anything you did wrong, and then on the other hand, after you've felt all those feelings, try to reach for a slightly better feeling. Because it does, like, there's this, on the one hand, feeling uncomfortable is so familiar to us because, you know, crappy things happen in life, that sometimes it feels quite comfortable, like down the gutter, right? It just feels quite comfortable to be there. And so sometimes I do need to remind myself, like, so I've been kind of stuck in fear mode or in sadness mode for a while now. It's time to reach for that better feeling thought again because, you know, it's getting kind of comfortable down here. So a combination of those, I think.
Yeah, but that's probably like when it goes into self-pity, you know, if we go, I mean, we all do it. I mean, I certainly do as well. Like, and I'm like, whoa, I gotta get myself out of this.
But sometimes we don't even notice, and it's not like conscious self-pity yet, but it just feels like, but it's still like, it really, really sucks still. So
But I think a way to find out if it's self-pity is if you always, and I'm guilty of this too, always pushing back on solutions. So not when you're in the middle of the grief, but let's say, you know, as everyday life, and someone says, but how about this? How about that? And you're like, no, but you know, that's not possible because, no, that's not, you know, all these it's obviously self-limiting beliefs, but they're all excuses, but we disguise them as reasons.
Yeah. And very often they sound very rational, right?
Very
like
rational.
Our excuses make total sense.
But then you see other people and they're like, they started with like nothing in the worst scenario. And now they you know, they like do all kinds of like amazing stuff. So I think to round up, because I know like you're doing business coaching now, and obviously using all this experience and tools that you've acquired over the years to help, you know, other entrepreneurs to thrive in their business. So I think in this time now where we all, you know, I think a lot of people now are going to be imposed self-isolation probably. And some people are losing their jobs, and, you know, there's all kinds of stuff going on at the moment that's very upsetting, obviously. So I'm saying this because this is obviously also a time, and I'm saying this at the completely wrong time, because I know everyone is like probably still in some people are still like grieving whatever they've lost, you know, if their business had to close or whatever it is. But this time is like a time where it's showing us almost like, and it's showing me 100% as well, that we have to be self-sufficient and learn it'll be good to be able to be self-sufficient financially, right? To not depending on a job, not depending on the location, not depending on a virus coming in or not coming or whatever it is, right? So what would you say to people? So let's say if they don't have, we'll plug all your stuff in. Like, I want everyone to know like how they can find you and your courses and coaching and stuff. But how would you, in terms of like a mindset, once people are sort of over the worst, like, you know, emotionally, when they feel ready to take action, what would you say to them?
Well, I mean, we're all dependent in some way, and like the rules completely changed, right? So I mean, you can definitely be taken aback for a bit and also grieve whatever you've lost, and then try to trust that, I mean, humans are so incredibly resilient. We will find a way to get society going again, and also there are still opportunities to be happy, right? And I mean, there's horrible stuff going on and we don't know what's going to happen. And that really triggers us as humans because we all want to have some sense of control over our own circumstances. And that has kind of been taken away from us. So like honor that and understand that that's what's going on, and that you will need to take care of those feelings every now and then. And we all have this little scared girl or boy inside of us that really needs to be looked after right now and really told, yeah, we're going to be okay. But then trust in your own resilience as well. And also trust in the fact that even if the circumstances are horrible, you still have a right to feel joy, and you still have a right to be happy. And also, like, especially like for my clients, like they're all service providers and they're very much needed right now. And like whenever possible, I would love to urge people to find ways to still be of service and to still reach out to each other and to still like build this community, even if it's online right now, and really support each other and try to be as little judgmental as possible, even though we sometimes really feel like we want to be.
Yeah. So to round up, I always ask these two same questions to all my guests. So the first one is, what would you tell your 18-year-old self?
Oh, yeah, I love this question. So what I would tell my 18-year-old self, and when I was thinking about this, I was like, ooh, I should actually tell my current self that as well, is that everything I so desperately want is coming to me in divine timing. And it is all working out for me.
Yes, that is so true.
I would have loved to know that when I was 18. I would have been so much calmer.
Yeah, but there's so many hormones going around at 18. It's hard to be calm.
That too, yeah.
And so I love that, by the way. That's great. What stuff do you not put up with anymore?
Well, I think there's definitely stuff about myself that I don't put up with anymore. Like, for the longest time, I was living a life that I thought that everyone was expecting from me, and I was unhappy, but I didn't do anything about it. So I'm not putting up anymore with the idea that things are impossible. Like if I think it will make me feel better, and if I think it will bring me joy, I get to try it. And that, that has made my life a whole lot better, even though there's certainly people who just don't understand and have sort of, are you talking to me anymore? Or
are you talking about this transition from, like, obviously because you went to medical school and then, studied psychiatry, to like going into coaching? Is that what you're talking about?
It's the career, but it's like a whole different way of life where I now know that like, it's our birthright to experience joy and to be very happy and to be successful if we want to be, and just all these self-imposed limitations, I try to let them go every time I catch myself. Like,
that's why I want to be able to let go of all my self-imposed limitation. Absolutely.
Yeah, and they're definitely just going to sneak up on us again, but then like we're much more aware, right?
Yeah, because I think when you think about the likelihood of us being conceived and born, is like, when you look at the probability, it's just insane. So that to actually, I think it's also duty to make the most of it, and to find joy. And doesn't mean it's not going to be rainbows and unicorns every day, obviously, but it's like to make the most of it, because otherwise we're wasting a huge opportunity. And also by doing that, we're also showing other people, it's like giving
we're
like
role modeling. We're role modeling for younger generations. And I think for every person that is happy, it makes it easier for the next person to become happy too.
Because or even friends. I love when friends do well. It inspires me when they make different choices, when they take risk. I'm like, oh my God, like I'm so excited. I'm like, I'm so excited for them, and it gives me like wind in my sails as well. I'm like, well, if they can do it, so can I. Let's go.
Apparently it's possible. Boom.
Yeah, exactly. Marianne, thank you so much for doing this with me today.
I loved our conversation. Thank you so much.
Tell us where people can find you and how can people work with you?
Yeah, so I am a business coach for service providing female entrepreneurs. And we do all the mindset and like subconscious belief and energy work, as well as like strategy and accountability. And so I really work with women who want to upgrade their offers and make it really fit their talents and their lifestyle, whether they're moms or they want to move online. And so that's what I do. So if you're one of those and you want to check me out, then come find me on my website, which Angie will link to because
it'll be in the show notes. But
do
say it.
To start spelling it out now, right? It's just my name.com, but it's like
do say it
don't know how to spell it. Okay,
do say it because not everyone looks at the show notes. So
okay,
look.
Cool. So it's MarianneVandenBroek.com. MarianneVandenBroek.com.
Marianne Vandenbroek, and it'll be .com, and I'll put the link in the show notes. So
perfect.
Thank you so much, Marianne.
Thank you.
And that's our episode. I hope you enjoyed it. Please don't forget to rate, review, subscribe on iTunes, follow on Spotify, for all the other platforms. Whichever way you show love is how you can support the show. Drop me your questions or suggestions for future episodes via the website at angie-s.com, or come and find me on Instagram. I have 2 accounts. One is Too Old for This Shit Podcast, and the other one is Not Too Old For with the number 4. Links in the show notes. See you next week, and until then,
using health inappropriately.